Hey Kaiju fans, so I want to introduce to you 3 cool products that we currently have in our store. They're all manufactured by Bandai Namco. On the left hand side here we have the Godzilla from 1954, the original one. On the right side we have Godzilla -1, and then on the top here we have the small Godzilla from the -1 movie. The bottom ones are manufactured by Yuji Sakai and they're about 9 inches tall. And the top one here is about 3.5 inches tall. Okay, so I think I'll first start with talking about the 1954 Godzilla. Again, this is crafted by Yuji Sakai. If you've seen any of my other videos, you would know that I certainly have a preference to his craftsmanship and his detail. And from what I could tell with this figure, it does appear to be very well crafted, and it does not appear that there are any points of articulation here, which means probably this is kind of a standalone figure that you would display on a bookshelf or display case, and certainly it's not for kids. I think the advisement here is that you got to be 15 years or older, so they wouldn't want someone to be putting this in their mouth or anything like that, because there are some sharp corners and such. But yeah, I think it's basically all kind of gray and sort of a light gray with his dorsal fins and whatnot, so probably very reminiscent of the movie. And since the movie was in black and white, we really can't know for sure what his exact colors were, but certainly I think this is a very good representation of that. A few other 1954 Godzillas, just simply for comparison purposes. This Godzilla, I believe, also in some ways was crafted by Yuji Sakai. It's granted it's probably a little bit bigger than the one that I'm showing in that box over there, but nevertheless this one's a pretty good sculpt. I would say generally the joints here are not as good as maybe the joints that are going to be in the figure within the box. There's some gaps, and yeah, it's maybe not as seamless as I would have liked. But another 1954 Godzilla, which is here, this is a Bandai Museum version. I picked this up, I think, in Japan somewhere. I think maybe there was at that Bandai Museum that existed in the early mid to late 2000s. So it would have been between maybe 06 and maybe 10 or 13 or so. But this one here, more of a kind of a crouch pose action, kind of looking down, and yeah, I think these are pretty good proxies or representations of potentially what's going to be in the box. But certainly you'd probably have to open the box for sure to be able to compare and contrast them. But yeah, that's just a quick video on the 54 Godzilla. Now let's go ahead and move over to the -1 version Godzilla. Again, Yuji Sakai is the craftsman, as like the other ones. This is about 9 inches tall, like I mentioned before. I think the figure is kind of all one similar color here. I mean, I think maybe that was intentional, but I don't think there's a heck of a lot of color variation, at least from what I can tell in the box here. But I think that's probably a stylistic choice as well, just because I think there is a gold version which we will be carrying shortly here, and I think this is kind of the more, I guess we would call it normal version. But yeah, I think it definitely is a nice looking sculpt. I think you can kind of tell his head is kind of off to the right a bit. You can see the textures on his skin, the prominent dorsal fins and whatnot. I think this was a very well crafted, and I think for the price, I mean, you're getting almost a museum, dare I say, museum quality figure for certainly not a heck of a lot of money. So I think if you are a Godzilla fan and you are willing to spend maybe a little bit extra cash to get something of higher quality that you can display on your shelf, I think this would be a terrific figure for that purpose. Now here's the final one I'll show here. This is the Odo Island Godzilla. This is about 3.5 inches tall. It's also manufactured by Bandai Namco, but this one is not crafted by Yuji Sakai. I think it's probably going to be another artist, but as I sort of looking at this box here, this does have a nice little stand with some insignia around it, so I think it's meant to maybe be sitting on your desk or certainly on a display case or whatnot. This one definitely has more of an active pose. I think you can kind of tell here that his legs are up and his tail sort of counterbalancing his body, so it's a very aggressive one. It's not like the other two figures, which are a little bit more grounded. So yeah, I think in the opening scenes in the movie, you'll remember when the main character is sort of seeing this creature for the first time on Odo Island. Yeah, it's kind of a pretty good representation of that. So yeah, that's just kind of a quick introduction. Feel free to head on over to KaijuKingdomCollectibles.com to pick up any one of the figures I just showed you. And yeah, hope to catch you next time. Thanks.